One of my favorite things about Coheed is that they are the champions at making epic songs happen in a short amount of time. And I think that's what drew me to them initially. I heard the title track for this album, this long song, and I was like, I feel like I watched a movie. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Lone University. Today is my 300th episode here on the channel, and because of that, I'm going to do something a little special for you. You might find it odd that I've covered so much punk rock and so much progressive rock and metal, so much modern rock and metal, but there's been no trace of a Coheed Cambria breakdown on the channel. Well, it's because they're one of my favorite bands of all time. When I was younger, I grew up on a lot of classic pop, some classic rock, nice catchy melodies, grooves you could sink into, but at the same time, I was getting into progressive rock and thrash metal. And Coheed came into my life at just a perfect time, and they seem to kind of bridge those two worlds together into one just seamless perfection of both. And the band has just been so special to me ever since like 2004. I had always planned to eventually do them here on the channel. I just couldn't decide which song to start with. I mean, there's so many great Coheed songs. Like, where do you start? But thankfully, you guys decided for me with this poll I ran here on the channel a while back with the crowing, and I decided on those 4 songs for that poll because they were all a part of a set list I had just got done playing. I did a full Coheed Cambria tribute show here in my town, 90 minutes, and I got to be intimately familiar with some of my favorite bass lines from their catalog. So today I'm listening through The Crowing, which is from their iconic and second studio album, In Keeping Secrets of Silent Earth 3, released in 2003. And I'd like to showcase why I think these bass parts played by original bassist Mic Todd pretty much embody everything you hear me talk about here on the channel. Bass lines that go rogue and form their own independent part, bass lines that glue the guitar parts and the drum parts together, bass lines that have their own melody. It's just brilliantly done in this song particularly. Off we go. Okay, I'm just going to play along for a minute. We'll go back and talk about the brilliance. Okay, I just love this bass line and how it complements the riff. So we're starting off here, E, C, and D. And I think the bass line is genius because it does something simple but profound. It takes all of the notes in the riff, sort of lays them all out like a note bank to choose from, and essentially walks through all of them, slightly ignoring the riff. So the main riff Claudio starts off playing is just an E minor, thirds, E and G, then it moves that top note down a half step, so you get this major second, and then it moves the bottom note, keeps the top note the same, down to just a D. And then it moves the top note up and the bottom note down, creating C. So essentially on top you have... And the bottom note changes at different times. So the notes we have are E, D, C, F sharp, G. So if I were to go back and play the bass line just on the prescribed root notes, which is just E, D, C, the bass line would be so boring. Now, it would be a fine bass line that actually worked perfectly fine, but it wouldn't be the crowing bass line. Let me kind of show you. I've removed the bass in this particular repeat, and you'll hear how it sounds. Keeping it the same. Versus. But I thought of it so, like there's no other way it could have been done. So just taking those notes from the riff, using them and going, okay, I'm going to loosely stick to the chord progression, but I'm actually going pretty rogue here because he's going E, starting with guitar on the Claudio part, and then Claudio's going down to this sound, and the bass is putting F in the root, so you get this sound. So he's sort of inverting the chord. And then when it goes to D, there's a mix of this little fill here. And then only on the last part on the C does it really lock in with the main root. And that's when the bass line stops its little melody happening here. And it locks in with the drums just for that little tag. So before we go further, let me talk about the tone real quick. I believe Mike used a Spectre on this record. It's pretty unanimous, but I've seen some claims that it was a Fender Jazz on some songs. I don't fully know for sure, but it does have that Spectre growl. And when I played that show, it was right around the time I'd gotten the Stingray. I would have used the Stingray live because I think those two can pass for each other if EQ'd right, but this Dingwall Combustion, which I haven't pulled out in a while, was really something that nailed that Spectre tone for me. It just kind of has that kind of honky, nasally characteristic in the voicing. You know, it's not big and wolfy. It's got this tight punchiness to it. So that's what I went with. It's what I played the show with. And the reason I haven't used it in a lot of videos recently is because I kept it in D standard. We tuned that whole set down a whole step because the vocalist, you know, it's Claudio. But I think I could make a few adjustments. I'm going to start flat here on this GK Legacy 800. I think I'm going to give the bass a little bump, but then compensate because that bump knob here boosts the bass quite a bit. So I'm going to pull the bass back down. I'm going to actually pull out some of the low mids and maybe add a little treble. I don't know. Let me start there. I don't think I'm going to kick this overdrive channel on. It might work for a little growl, but I'm going to start with a cleaner, more hi-fi tone. Now let's keep it going. Now, if you look at the tabs here for this part, it shows these notes being slapped, and from what little, I wouldn't say what little, it's just been a long time. I haven't seen a lot of live footage of Mic Todd play. I have the Starland Ballroom DVD from way back when, classic. But I notice he slaps a lot of things that you normally wouldn't slap. So I could see him slapping these notes, even though it's not calling for that tone particularly. I don't know if he just wants to give the notes a little extra oomph in the attack. I don't really know. It seems kind of pointless to me, but I noticed he'll slap and pop a lot of things that I wouldn't expect a bass player to do, and that kind of makes him unique. And I would say those albums he played on are pretty riddled with that approach. But here in these tabs I've pulled up, these are just from songster.com. They seem pretty right to me, and they lined up with a lot of covers I looked up, but I sort of made a few parts my own, which we'll get to later in the song. But it shows these notes are slapped here, even though that sounds a bit too abrasive for this. So I'm not going to do them, but you can kind of see that whoever transcribed this maybe one off a live DVD or something. Okay. Locking in really nice with the kick drum. 5-1. Walking down those passing tones. Okay, so what's cool about this bass part is that it's meat and potatoes. It's locking with the kick drum. It goes from this rogue, kind of baked-in melody happening earlier on that pulled that badass Josh Epper drum groove part together, which I'll get to him as well. One of my favorite drummers. It took the riff and the drums and just made sense of them both in the same sentence. Now we've abandoned that and we're just locking in. We're getting inside the kick drum, doing a few passing tones that keep some movement in the chord progression, which is sort of this E9, E minor 9. Then it goes up to C major 7. Kind of bends that top note. But what's cool about a C major 7 is that if you took the C away in the root, you have an E minor chord on top of it. So these chords go together like peanut butter and jelly. They're real smooth. And neither of them have a lot of tension in them like a dominant chord. It doesn't want to go anywhere. It's not like a dominant chord that wants to go to. They're just kind of on their own and have this neutral darkness to them. I love the way 9 chords sound, especially when they're minor. Technically adding that top note, I just can't do it all on bass. Maybe I can. Let's see. That chord and then the C major. So it has this really pensive type of thing here in the breakdown. kind of inverts it there too, goes up instead of down to 5, the B to 1, pushes it up to a D, and you hear that rub happen. I love that. Just one note can be so powerful and give a little tension. Okay, back to the main part.
To shroud this body under the streets of the Aztec City.
A little extended fill there.
When I'm summoned to walk across the face.
Okay, this is one of my favorite parts of this whole song. Josh goes double time on the drums, and what Mike does just by going up an octave, because that groove is primarily lived down here. It only started off in this register at the very beginning of the song. And just for this one section, he goes up back into that octave. And I think what it does is genius. Instead of just that being a different drum groove for one repeat, Mike going up an octave and doing it when Josh changes to double time makes it now more of a song section. It's like that's the double time section. I think if Mike would have stayed in the lower octave, it would just be like, okay, Josh did a little drum beat flip around thing there. So stuff like that is so simple and can be so overlooked. Changing the octaves, who would have thought that? Easy, but it makes a huge impact on the way this part comes across. It signifies that change, and you just really feel it in the rhythm section. And he only does it once, so I know it was a very intentional. I doubt that was very off the cuff.
To shroud this body under the streets of the Aztec City. And wait for the day when I'm summoned to walk across the
Right here.
Slowly but clearer now. Conditions that play and break memories.
And I think that feels a little different. Couple little variations here, I think he just extends that here. I don't think I see that reflected in the tabs. Actually, I do, right there. But see, this is all wrong here. I know it's not all Ds, or open E's, I should say. I'm still thinking from when I played this, we were in D. This is actually a fill here with notes. And I want to say before we get going is that one of my favorite things about Coheed is that they are the champions at making epic songs happen in a short amount of time. And I think that's what drew me to them initially. I heard the title track for this album, this long song, and I was like, I feel like I watched a movie. The whole fade out, the fake ending, bringing it back in with the intro, then the whoa, whoa, whoa thing. I mean, it's like so much epicness in one song. I mean, I listened to a lot of progressive rock and metal growing up. Dream Theater, yes, King Crimson. Who all write epic stuff? Rush. But there's something about Coheed's ability to rein in the simplicity, but not lose the epic progressive part of their sound. They do it like no other, in my opinion. And I'm going to say that this 6-minute song, six and a half minutes, there's so much tension and dynamics and storytelling just in the music. We're not even talking about the comic book and the Amory Wars. I'm talking just musically. They're able to match that energy. I've just loved this composition. I'm glad you guys voted it in. Okay, let's keep going.
I love him with all as a son should to mother and father. You were my favorite.
Real simple here. D.
I walk through the door, shedding the light of all lights, without rise and reform. Would I come as before?
Okay, this is the change that happens here when I talk about getting a little more epic, a little darker. It's a perfect slow burn into, if you know the song, you know where this goes. It gets really wild here in a minute, but it's such a seamless sneak up on you kind of change. It's brilliant to me. And so this whole part we're in right now is just a transition into that. We're still leaning into that ba-da, 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 that theme of the rhythm. Even though the drums aren't doing it quite as much anymore, I think Mike is still just locking in with the kick drum. But but it makes that part feel cohesive with the whole way the song opened up. Still kind of groovy, but just outlining the same chords, E, C, D, in a different way. Now here's when it starts getting a little more open and driving, and it slowly gets grittier. Okay, now we're getting real weird. In this section, when I remember first hearing this and going, whoa, it's like they went hardcore for a second. They just kind of tapped into some of their roots, and I've learned more about this band. They really were a punk rock band. You know, Second Stage, which is an album I'm not super familiar with. I've heard it. It's the least listened to out of all the albums because I got into them with this album and went forward, but this album still had a lot of traces of what was going on in that record. And this whole section I find musically very interesting. It's almost like the bass parts and the harmonic content of the guitar parts and the bass parts kind of abandon any sort of sensibility just to make it chaotic. And it's really carried by the drums here. Okay, let's go into that part. It's kind of a bitch to play. Show you the tabs here. It's been a while. That's a really hard part to play. I think when we played the show, I kind of goofed it up a bit. I goofed it up just now. But there's been some conflicting tabs when I was really learning this because I remember pulling this up first on songster.com, which is great to just look up some tabs. And it says here in the notes, yeah, this is a surprise to me too, but I'm 95% sure this is what Mike plays. So I'm getting the feeling this person was watching a live performance where he might have embellished the part a bit, which makes sense if I were to play it that way live, and that's how I learned it. But I think on the record, I've seen a guy cover it that does it more just like, kind of doing what those harmonics are on guitar, that little part. So I don't know. I thought this part was really cool, and I wasn't really sure how to play it based on the notation here. These S's for slap. I don't know how that's physically played, so I just did the double thump style. Took out 4 plucks, so 1, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, made it just 3. So it lines up with the... And then I kept playing the groove part before it with my thumb because I'm already in position to do that, so... It's really tough to play that way. Took a while for me to work that up, but it's a really cool part, and I think it pushes forward the intensity of this section. It's just kind of chaotic. It's falling apart. The whole song feels like it's devolving. It's unraveling. And if I go back to this part a little bit before that, I think there was a bit more agreement on the tabs I found with this part here, the... an E diminished thing there now. So we've been in E minor, flat to 5. So we've taken the tonality of the piece, E minor, we've made it E diminished, which is perfect for this whole unraveling section here. But this little hammer-on thing, it felt right to me. It's so fast that I'll never know unless I call Mike up on the phone and ask him what he played, but nonetheless. Cool part, and I think any of this stuff right here, I don't think those notes matter or contribute anything harmonically. I think it's just something to play under that guitar part, which is pinch harmonics and whatever that sounds crazy, it's a cool effect. It's almost auxiliary at this point. I honestly think the guitar and the bass could have just rested here and let Josh go and let it be just kind of a drum break. I think compositionally it would have worked just the same, although I like what's played here. The point being is, like, I think that drum part was what led it, and I feel like the guitar and the bass parts were just afterthoughts to make it kind of crazy and chaotic. And if you think about where we've been in the song so far, these really soft, gentle vocals, it's crazy how that can be in the same sentence. That's what I'm referring to when I say Coheed can put so much dynamic epicness in just 6.5 minutes. Okay, I'm gonna go through that section again. It's fun to play. Let's see. And this section is sort of a callback to that thing from earlier. Now we've put it down and just kind of moved it down. So now we're in G. I don't know what that chord is. Maybe it's here. It's in the guitar parts. Let's look at that. Okay, yeah, those are just both 9 chords. G, 1, 5, 5, and then the B minor 9. I thought they might be a little different, but those are a little different than the first part. All right. The song is wrapping up here, and it slowly gets a bit brighter and more happy. So we've gone happy, dark, happy. It's kind of a cool chronology musically.
Words that I would say. Your face and a door between.
I'm actually going to scoop my mids a tad more. Bit more Spectre-ish now. It's just tough. You got to get the scoop right, the bass right. I think I'm, as close as I'm going to get just with what I have here. It melds with the kick drum so well. That's where the song starts to brighten back up. C9. 9 chords have that bit of pensiveness to them. They're neutral. I'd say they're a bit brighter than darker, but they signify like waiting. There's something about them. So I think that's a perfectly placed chord here. You can feel the song pivot back into positivity, if you will. It's a bit darker here. Love how it breathes here. Now we start to build back up to just blowing open with more of a major key thing. And I think these song sections work so well because Claudio can match the dynamics of the music with his voice. It can get so tender. I think that's something nobody else can do like they do. Riffing in E minor. Same rhythmic theme as before. Ba-da, 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 ba-da.
Did you ever really know before? My face, shame to break. Did you ever really know before? My mind, scared to.
Same drum groove, I think. Same type of feel as the intro. It's just repurposed, and I would say this is kind of a reprise of that in a way.
Did you ever really know before? My name, son to these. Did you come clean? The end from the start.
And I haven't mentioned Travis Stever's parts yet, but one of the most unique things about him is how he's always playing this guitar solo over the vocals, under the vocals. There's just always this secondary melody happening. And it's simple, it's catchy, And I think it just elevates the whole song melodically in the sense that Claudio's vocals are so melodic to begin with. Lots of harmonies stacked. And he just comes in and finds these perfect little tags that almost are contrapuntal to the vocal melody, but they're not mixed in a way where it's meant to hear both equally like a counterpoint melody would be. It's kind of just this little melody that's on its own plane orbiting the song. And I feel like that thing he does has gotten less prevalent as the years went on, but this album is really chock full of that. It's happening right here in the cleans, and there were some distorted ones earlier I probably missed. I'm talking about the bass part, but I love what he adds to their songs. It's like a gentle guitar solo that's not a guitar solo. It never steps on toes. It just fills in the space perfectly. I don't know how to describe it. Okay. Now we're in the outro. Okay, right here, the drums change grooves here, goes double time. I think that's the first time in the entire song where the drums and the bass truly stop holding hands musically. They're very lined up for this whole song, all the way back to... all the way back there, even the... They've been married rhythmically. I think this is the first time in the song where they break away. The drums are just kind of riding with less kick drum pattern prescribed. The bass line is just a bit freeform here. You can even go down to the tabs at the end and see that, yeah, there might be some patterns, but, you know, all these parts look a little different. I'm not sure if the person transcribing was going off of something here, but all of these measures just look a little bit different. You know, some notes are tied, little pull-offs here, quarter notes here that maybe aren't on this time. Little rests. Of course, we have the repeating F sharp, D, A, E. So that's about the only part that really comes back together. Ba-da, ba-da, ba-da-da. Drums and bass are back together. But again, you can hear right when this double time happens, it's like they just break away from each other and just ride the song out and riff on their own terms a little bit. I didn't learn any of this note for note. I just knew the chord progression because we kind of jammed it out live a bit as well. Let's write it out. Well, I can begin the rest of my life now with Coheed Cambria having a video on the channel. Many more to come, in theory. They're all just so great. I think one of my favorite bass lines to play from that set was The Suffering. The whole song is just upbeat driven. It's so groovy. It has a lot of that Mic Todd flair, the little slaps, and I just love his approach and style. But I also want to say that as much as I grew up on and love Mike's style, I have a super soft spot for Zach Cooper. He brings that same fat, groovy tone, but he has his own mojo. Songs like The Hard Sell and a lot of the newer stuff on the Afterman, those two albums, Vaxis too, he had some great stuff. But sadly, it's embarrassing for me to say I've not checked out the new album yet. It really got away from me. I'm in this weird place now where I second guess listening to music because I could maybe do it here on the channel. It's a weird place to be in, and I need to just listen to it. I imagine there's some amazing stuff on there. I've seen really rave reviews from diehard Coheed fans that I know personally about it. I did hear Blindside, Sunny, or that single they released, but just not the whole album. But nonetheless, what a treat to revisit. This album is so nostalgic to me. I'm confident it's very nostalgic to many of you as well. And long live Coheed. What an amazing band. I always feel like they're a bit of the underdogs in the mainstream world. Let me know what song I should do next, or maybe one from the new record. I can maybe hold off and do one here on the channel, and then I'll dive in. But nonetheless, I appreciate you guys hanging out with me here today. If you'd like to support the channel further, please come find us on Patreon. We do full albums. We have an amazing community who I love so much. I have bass lessons, music theory lessons, tons of resources. And if you enjoyed this video, please like the video. Click it. Just takes a second. Subscribe to the channel. I love you all. We will see you in the next one.